Hey, welcome to EPN. My name is Victor Lucas, and we bring you the latest in everything cool every single day, these days from my basement, and it's good to see all of you. Today's rundown is going out to all of the construction workers that are on site, still, putting buildings together, maybe working on some emergency constructed buildings, but for whatever reason, there are a lot of construction workers that are still on the job. I guess it is an essential service in a lot of ways, but all I want and hope for all of you construction workers that are out there working is that you are being taken care of and you've got some personal protection equipment on, some masks or something to keep you safe and healthy. But I know that a lot of you that are in construction that are working have got really no other choice than to keep working. So this rundown is all yours. Let's get started. We're still waiting to see what the PS5 looks like, but we've finally seen the next best thing. Yesterday afternoon, Sony unveiled the new controller for the PlayStation 5. It's called the DualSense and puts a strong emphasis on how the controller feels. It has haptic feedback for a wider range of vibrations than the traditional rumble feature and adaptive trigger buttons so they can provide different levels of tension depending on what you're doing in the game. For example, pulling back a bow and arrow in Horizon Zero Dawn will give you a different level of tension than stepping on the gas in Gran Turismo. The button layout itself is pretty similar to the PS4 controller, although Sony has moved the light bar from the top of the controller down to the side so that you can actually see it. As for how it stacks up to the new controller on the Xbox Series X, the biggest difference is that the PS5 controller comes with a built-in rechargeable battery, while the new Xbox controller will, once again, use AA batteries with a rechargeable battery pack sold separately. Both the PS5 and Xbox Series X are slated to arrive this holiday season, and despite supply shortages and factory closures across the globe, both Microsoft and Sony are insisting that both consoles are still on schedule.
I guess we'll find out soon enough.
I thought the new controller looked very sci-fi, very futuristic. It looked almost like something that would be on the Star Wars set, like the stormtroopers would be using the PlayStation 5 or something. It's definitely sleek looking, but I honestly, I'm excited that we're getting teased with this new hardware, but I want to see how it plays and how it feels, and if it's as comfortable as the DualShock 4 has grown for me. I think they did a pretty good job with the DualShock 4. What I'm kind of picking up, though, with the fact that the light bar isn't on the front of the controller is that it's going to connect to whatever type of camera interface might be on the PlayStation 5 in a different way than the light-emitting sensors off of the DualShock 4s connecting with cameras for VR and stuff like that. So I don't know if we're going to be having to have our controllers light up so that the camera can see the controllers and use it in 3D space in VR, or if PlayStation 5 is going to have a whole new setup for VR, potentially with cameras actually on the head-mounted display like Oculus Quest, which could mean we aren't tethered to the PlayStation 5, which is the right way to go, but all of that sounds incredibly expensive to me, so that's kind of what got my mind spinning on the controller itself. It looks cool, it looks a little wider, it looks a lot like the Xbox controller, to be honest. It looks like it's leaning in that direction. It's like the PlayStation controllers have just started to get bigger and grow up as new iterations of the PlayStation have been coming our way. Very excited to get one in my hand, though, and very excited to see what the PlayStation 5 is capable of. Next-gen consoles are coming out later this year, we hope, but there are still loads of great games coming to current-gen systems. Microsoft held a new Inside Xbox live stream yesterday evening where they showed off two of the big first-party titles coming to the Xbox One and PC this year. The biggest, or smallest, new game is Grounded from the Outer Worlds developer Obsidian Entertainment. It was first announced last year, but we now have our first good look at the gameplay and story. Players will find themselves scaled down to Honey, I Shrunk the Kids proportions and stranded in their backyard, battling enemies and collecting resources to construct their own forts in order to survive. This is the first project from Obsidian since the studio was bought by Microsoft in 2018 and is scheduled to launch this summer. Next up, Microsoft offered a closer look at the gameplay in Gears Tactics, their new turn-based strategy game based on the Gears of War franchise. Players command a team of cogs and take on different Locust bad guys, although you might be surprised to learn that unlike other Gears games, this one is single-player only, so no multiplayer. It invades the PC on April 28th with an Xbox One version coming later this year. Very excited to check out Gears Tactics. I like tactics games, and Gears already, when you play it in first person, is kind of a tactics game. You really have to kind of be smart with the way you go at the enemy. So it really, I think, is a good fit for this kind of gameplay. Very surprising that it's single player only. I guess what they're doing with tactics is they're seeing what the appetite is for the game. They're trying to make something that is probably really tuned and really fun to play. And if people gravitate towards it and make it a big hit, then potentially we're going to get updates or a sequel with all kinds of multiplayer options. But yeah, it feels weird to not be able to play a Gears game in multiplayer. That is very strange.
Welcome back, soldier. Now grab a weapon.
As for Obsidian's new one, I'm always excited by anything that the developer is putting in front of us. They're a very, very smart group of people over there. They totally understand gameplay, and I'm surprised how quickly they were able to convert on this acquisition from Microsoft. Obviously, Microsoft has extended some development dollars. They need companies like Obsidian to come through for them because they've been sort of deficient in their first-party software. So very excited to play Grounded. And honestly, I'm always down for this shrink me down and everything is massive around me kind of game design. I've loved that since Micro Machines and lots of other games that have employed something very similar. There's a new game on Apple Arcade called Spider, where you play a little robot spider and you're cruising around inside of this giant world. I always dig that kind of stuff. So yeah, so super excited about Grounded. It sounds like more and more movies are going to be skipping theaters and going straight to digital. Following Disney's announcement that their new sci-fi adventure movie Artemis Fowl will skip its theatrical release and launch exclusively on Disney+, the studio is planning to do the same with more movies in the future. That's according to Disney CEO Bob Iger, who tells the financial newspaper Barron's that they have a few more small and mid-tier movies they're planning for Disney+, but at the same time, the gigantic tentpole movies will still get traditional theatrical distribution.
All right, enough. All of you.
Disney has already given new theatrical release dates to Black Widow and Mulan.
Yes, Commander.
But smaller movies like the New Mutants and the horror movie Antlers are still off the calendar, so don't be surprised if they're quietly dumped on digital.
Who's there?
Major theater chains probably won't be too happy with Disney for going in this direction, but it's something Hollywood studios have been hinting at for years, and all the theater closures caused by the global pandemic have only sped things up.
You're all I have now, Artie.
You know what? This is a sign of the times, not only because of the global pandemic, but because more and more good streaming services keep popping up. Disney Plus is incredibly important to Disney overall, and it is a direct link to their consumers, and if they don't give people something special to keep them there, like Netflix has been heavily investing in their exclusive content, they're going to kind of lose them to the wind. They're not going to be able to compete with the rest of the big streamers out there. So I am not surprised at all that Disney and other studios and other movie production houses are thinking, let's build it for the established subscribers out there. We're going to see that more and more. And, I think movie theaters are still going to exist. It's still going to be an incredibly fun social experience. But I think also the experience of going to the movies needs to escalate and needs to be much bigger than what we can find at home. A lot of us have big TVs and the ability to stream 4K right into our homes. And I think movie theaters have to kind of over-deliver at this point. And it puts the onus on them. It's going to be a lot of pressure and a lot of struggle for a lot of these huge companies, but I don't think they're going to go away. I think they're just going to adapt, and we're going to adapt our consumption habits when it comes to new movies as well.
Nothing lasts forever.
Digital streaming might be the future of the entertainment industry, but it's not the future of E3, at least not this year. The Entertainment Software Association, or ESA, has canceled their plans for a digital streaming version of this year's E3. They announced that they were planning to hold special live streams shortly after they canceled the real-life E3 last month, similar to what the Game Developers Conference did after canceling their event, but the E3 streams will not be happening. Instead, many publishers will be holding their own separate live streams throughout the summer where they'll make the announcements that they would have normally made at E3, but it will be up to them when and how those announcements are made. Looking ahead, E3 2021 is still scheduled to happen from June 15th to 17th in Los Angeles. I think the writing was on the wall. I think that the publishers all got kind of thrown for a loop because of this pandemic and had to kind of scramble to put together their marketing strategies and plans. And of course, production is being impacted as well, which really inhibits the ability to kind of even show off some of this content. But it makes sense for everybody to circle their own independent wagons corporately and be very judicious about what they are going to show us. So I don't think we're going to be inundated with lots and lots and lots of reveals throughout the summer. I think we're going to get some, but I think stuff is being impacted. And so we're going to get a nice taste of what's to come in next generation from all of the hardware manufacturers. And, we're going to get a good view at what we're going to be playing in the future for sure. But I think publishers just don't want to reveal all their cards yet. And there's tons of time to do it. As for E3 going forward in the future, time will tell, but I think that this extra year of planning and regrouping and reconnecting with the industry itself, but also the sort of the fan culture and the community around the business of video games is going to be incredibly important for E3. It's a consumer-facing show, but it's a professional show, and it needs to exist in both of those categories and do it effectively and do it well. And so everybody that attends E3 or is excited by E3 needs to feel re-energized by it and not skeptical of it. And I think this time is going to be good for E3 to kind of look inward at to what it's trying to be and how it's going to evolve, because clearly all of the creators out there, all of the publishers and the hardware manufacturers and the developers themselves even, can release their own information and create their own businesses exclusive of any kind of joint kind of noise that we would get out of E3. And that has been the biggest fear of the organizers from the ESA and of the people that put on E3, and for people like myself who like that aggregation of all of that information. I love to go, and I like to also mingle with people from all aspects of the video game industry in one space. I think that there's a celebratory kind of win by putting on a show like E3, but it has to be done right, and everybody has to be on board. And for whatever reason, it's been splintering and splintering and splintering. So I guess, the organizers of E3 have another year to see if they can bring the band back together and make E3 as special as it once was. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for our rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. We'll be back again tomorrow with a fresh episode for you, so please come back for that. In the meantime, we've got lots of other content for you to check out, including all of our 16-bit superheroes segments. I've been reviewing cartridges for a while now, and it's been a lot of fun, except maybe for the last one that I just did. So check those out, and if you dig our channel, hit that subscribe button. If you like this video, hit that like button. Thanks for sharing. We'll see you tomorrow, and until then, play forever.